what does that sound convey to you? If you've ever come into contact with a horror game or movie, the first thing you probably thought of was that this is going to be scary, or at least talk about that. But what about music that sounds like this? This most likely invokes a different reaction from you, something more happy or cheerful. See, these are both pieces of music that I've picked because they sound much like the sound that you would find in a TV show, and they're used to convey how you're supposed to feel as you watch. As your favorite character is filled with dread, the score hints that you should be too. And since this is the way it's always been for any type of media, we've come to expect the musical ambiance to reflect how the showrunners or movie producers or game developers or whoever wants us to feel in the moment. But why do we use music to convey how we feel? Aren't words enough? Let's start back at the beginning, all the way back in 1888. 1888 was the year that the first movie premiered. Now, we probably wouldn't recognize it as such. It didn't have any superheroes, massive production budget, CGI, or even really a coherent plot. Roundhay Garden Scene, classified as the oldest movie by the Guinness Book of World Records, is only about 2.1 seconds long, created by French inventor Louis Le Prince. The movie, if you can call it that, shows a man walking a few steps around a garden with onlookers in the back. When talking about the first movie, most people refer to the arrival of the train in 1895, filmed in the French coastal town of La Ciotat. But really, both of these aren't movies. They're just brief clips of video before we knew what that could become. These videos paved the way for what we watch today, sure, and for that we should praise Le Prince and others who did what he did. But this is a video about music, not early films. So let's get back to that. Saying early films were just visual is technically correct, because the cameras that were used had no way of picking up audio, and films with fully captured sound, or talkies as they were called, didn't come out until October 1927 with The Jazz Singer.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am privileged to say a few words to you in this most modern and novel manner.
But before that, the cinema still had sound. It just didn't come from the movie itself. Most movies were accompanied with some musical ensemble for the first 30 years of the medium's existence. From a single piano all the way to entire symphonies, sounds accompanied silent films for almost all of their existence. Having it this way solved an inherent problem with silent films. No one knew how to feel. The fact is, it's hard to convey what an emotion someone should have when viewing a movie if you can't use words or sounds. If we look at a scene from the legendary silent film actor Charlie Chaplin, who I'm sure many of you know for having a Hitler stash before it was cool, and for being the most famous actor before anyone could hear his words. The scene is Charlie's 1928 movie The Circus, and demonstrates the issue with film without sound. As Charlie walks around nervously or tiptoes past the line, you can hear the music in your head that would accompany it. It's just so ingrained in our minds that being sneaky sounds like this. Or a sudden scare from a tiger waiting on the other side of a wall sounds like this. And the reason for that is large orchestras played alongside these early films. They provided the feeling for these movies, feelings for things that people saw on the screen. These orchestras provided the emotional context to the movies we watched, and still do. Joseph Carl Brielle was born in 1870 and died in 1929, both in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He had a long career of movie scoring, working on one of the most infamous films ever created, 1915's A Birth of a Nation. Well, I'm not going to get into that movie here, although that might be the topic of another video. The Birth of a Nation was a massive success, and made around $50 to $100 million in the box office. Not bad for today, but an unprecedented achievement for the time, in no small part due to how it sounded. The soundtrack was revolutionary for the time, with the 3-hour movie being scored throughout with 3 different types of music, all specifically arranged for the movie. From Dixieland music and Southern melodies to variations of classical leitmotifs throughout the film, Brielle created a score that would inspire films for decades. Which brings us to today. Auditory Feelings have moved from movies to TV shows and video games, any type of media where creators want us to feel something. Something that was created as a workaround for a lack of technology, and voice in film has become a way for us as humans to experience emotion through music. All because a guy wanted to film someone walking around a garden. Thanks so much for watching.